Welcome again to Cottage Talk. I am Russ Goldman. Joining me right now is Tony Gold and making an appearance. It's been a long time, Mr. Mike Regg. It's great to have Mike back on. This is a special episode of Cottage Talk. It is entitled The Ticket Situation for Fulham Supporters." And the reason why I wanted to talk about this now is basically the jumping off point was the general sale for the Manchester United game match. And it really just irritated me. And I saw the response from it. But this ticket situation has been going on for a very long time. This is not a new problem. But I wanted to have a conversation with Mike and Tony about it and get their thoughts on this and see where the conversation takes us. So first of all, I'm going to welcome Tony back to the show. Tony, how you doing?
Good, thanks, Russ. How you doing?
I'm doing good. I look forward to doing the show with you and Mike. I think hopefully we'll get some good conversation going about the situation. Okay, Mike, how you doing?
Yeah, I'm good, Russ, and hi, Tony. Yeah, good to be back on, and looking forward to discussing this very topical question about tickets, but it's an ongoing one. You know, I think I probably remember talking to you about it in 2015 or 16, Russ, when we were talking about stuff back then. So yeah.
Yes, this is not new, Mike, but let's start where I think it started to take off once again. But again, it's not something that's ever gone away. It's been there. But we're going to talk about right now the tickets for the Manchester United match went on general sale on Wednesday. And the response I saw on social media was what you might think it would be. It was horrible. And I just want to get your thoughts. We'll talk about the entire situation with the ticket situation with Fulham in general. But Mike, I want to start with you. When you saw this, what were your initial thoughts to them going on general sale?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, there is a mitigating circumstance, which I suppose is the kickoff time for the actual game, 7 o'clock on a Sunday. So let's take that into account. But for a Man United game at the Cottage to go on general sale, extremely rare. I can't remember when that was, to be perfectly honest. But also, it's a game that Fulham fans want to attend. Fans who haven't got a season ticket, the occasional fan who goes along, they want to bring their children as well, the next set of fans as well. But the reason that isn't happening is because of some of the restrictions the club are putting in. But also the main thing is just the cost. I mean, the Riverside stand, I think the minimum ticket is 150, and then most of them are 160 for an adult. And then for children, you're looking at 70, 80 pounds. And then for 18 to 21-year-olds, 140 pounds. So, for the Riverside stand, it's probably a no-go. But, even for every other ticket range, you're not getting any change out of 60, 70, 80 quid. So, and it's not the first time this season, that the club might say that games are sold out and that kind of thing. But, I know I'm not there as much as I'd love to be. But You see it on the TV, you get first-hand comments back, speaking to friends and family who go. And the whole pricing policy they have at the moment, not just for this Man United game, but from season tickets to match by match, is just getting away from the normal fan. And what is the normal fan? That's the one who, wants to turn up, support their local team or, their main team, if you like. And, I can show, before coming on here, Russ, I had to look back over some prices and that, and we can talk about them later. But
sure,
I've got 3 sets of prices: 2018, 2022, and this coming Sunday, and it's quite shocking the jumps between. But going back to the main point, yeah, general sale, it shouldn't be happening. Those tickets should be snapped up by season ticket holders, members, but they're just not doing it because it's just too damn expensive.
Right, Mike, and that was going to be the big question is why, and it's too expensive, Tony. I'll go to you. I want to get your thoughts to your initial reaction. I actually saw your comments off of the Fulham FC tweet. So talk about the ticket pricing being so expensive here, and it affects you and your son. You were mentioning that off air as well, but they've just lost touch with the way I look at it. And I remember from day one, I remember Shah Khan saying that we're custodians for the club, right? Well, your supporters are the ones that you should be concerned about. And they're not, in my opinion, with this ticket pricing, Tony, if they really were concerned about the supporters, they wouldn't be to the pricing that they're at. They've priced out their supporters for this generation and for generations to come. But I want to get your thoughts.
Yeah, look, Mike's touched on some very important points. Look, the demographic of football has definitely changed over the last 10 years. There's no question about that. That's the first thing. The second thing is that no one wants to be watching Fulham versus Manchester United on a Sunday night at 7 o'clock. It's you know, what is that all about? You know, that's not football. That's just money making, television, and nobody wants that. So that's also got to be taken into the equation. But look, the bottom line is, Russ, look, Fulham's been in my blood since the day I was born. I was a season ticket holder for 40 years. I gave up my season ticket because of the increasing prices. I couldn't commit to, you know, when I was growing up, football was Saturday afternoon, 3 o'clock. It fitted into everything I did, and I could go along. I knew where I was, and you'd get the odd midweek game as well, which you could go and attend. Now, you're getting FA Cup games on a Thursday night. You're getting football on a Sunday night at 7 o'clock. What's the point of having a season ticket when, you know, people's lives are different now? You can't, the football changes every 5 minutes. You don't know whether you're coming or going. I want to know that I can turn up, watch a game and go and watch it. The second thing is now, obviously, the other thing to add to that is anyone can get a ticket at Fulham. If you've got money, you can go. You don't have to be a loyal supporter. You don't even have to be a supporter. And I've been at Fulham this season, and I've where I always sit in the Hammersmith end, pretty much every time. And I'm looking around, and I see people leaving 20 minutes before the game ends, leaving, come in 20 minutes when the game started, and it's just an absolute joke. And ultimately, they're talking about why can't Fulham get an atmosphere in the ground? Well, right. If you're charging 160 quid for, and not just adults, 65-year-olds plus 160 quid to go and sit in the Riverside stand, 120 quid for a 16-year-old to go and sit in the Riverside. It's an absolute joke. And it does need to be addressed, and it needs to be sorted out, because it is stopping a new generation of fans going to our games, and it's going to affect us in the future.
I totally agree, Tony. It's funny because I see this often. Well, what happens when Fulham get relegated? It probably will happen because that's just football, right? So what are they going to do then? And I don't think they really care too much about that right now. Their planning is not in the future. And I think that's also a factor in all this, Mike, because when I look at why they've done this, now I understand about trying to get their money back for the Riverside stand, but I'm going to throw this on the table. I didn't make the mistakes that, or you or Tony, the Fulham supporters weren't responsible for all the issues that they had building this stand. Why do I feel that that's being passed on to the Fulham supporters? Okay. Because they invested a lot of money in it. I understand trying to get some money back, but I think that, in my opinion, like Tony said, do they really care about the supporter, or do they just care about filling the seats, Mike? Because to me, they know that they can get it. Gary Cooper just said the tourists will buy it up. So that, I think, is what's bothering me about this. Do they care about the supporters that come each and every week and for generations?
So, it's a big, wide-ranging question. We could do a show on the Riverside stand, having been involved with the supporters trust and lobbied council and sat in a council meeting and live tweeting when we were getting the planning and being really happy. But loads of promises were made to the club by the club to the fans about what they were going to do, and they didn't do them, and they're not doing them now. So I feel a bit bitter about that. Absolutely, cards on the table. But do they care about the average fan? I think the answer really is no, because if you read the trust notes for a start, the way Alistair talks about, the money they can get for the games, they can sell the tickets at the highest amount. Right. I think one of the worries about, I'll say, the British football, shall we say, is the way the clubs are treating long-term fans. And so this season, Fulham reduced, I can't believe it, the number of season tickets they wanted to sell. Okay, for the first time ever. I mean, I started in 1978. Okay, and I have never known the club turn away season ticket holders. Really, but certainly not reduce them anyway. So 15,000 limit. Okay, because they don't want season ticket holders. They don't want me. Okay, you're seeing it in other clubs like Man United and other clubs that have the policy that you buy a season ticket, you're obviously getting at a reduced price, and if you don't turn up and you missed, I think Arsenal have a policy, if you don't turn up twice, more than twice, you'll lose your season ticket for the next season.
Wow.
Man United, I think it's 4 or 5 times. Okay, and I was surprised. I'll be honest with you, and I was surprised the club didn't implement that last summer, and I expect them to implement it this coming summer, because it is the way Premier League clubs work, and the owners. They're all together. What's your club doing for this? And they follow best practice. Okay, right. So the best practice. And if you put yourself in a CEO's or a ticket manager's seat, and Michael Gregg gets a season ticket for 676 quid in the Hammersmith end. Okay, so that's £35 a game. My seat would cost me £77 a game. So you can see the finances make sense if that seat gets sold every game. Okay, but what you don't get is something you mentioned there, which is the passion from those fans. Okay, you do not get all knowing the same songs, all knowing the same players, and you're not getting the. I'm a tourist fan as well. I go to America and I'll go to a baseball game. I'll go to an NFL game. I am one of those people, and I might be surrounded by people, and it happens, and you fully expect that. But also, those tourist fans, sometimes they come along once and they become a supporter from afar. So, right. But the club aren't even really interested in that. All they want is a bum on a seat. They want them to go into the shop and buy a program, which hardly worth it anymore, but buy a shirt as well. So in the end, and buy drinks, food, whatever. Right. So they walk away with that person buying a £77 ticket plus the extras they've got 150, 200 quid off them from my seat. But it's the loyalty thing as well. Lots of fans like Tony and myself, we've put in the hard yards, if you like, and we love that club. And we've done, many of us, that club wouldn't exist for, if there wasn't 2,000 or 3,000 of us going out, raising money, delivering leaflets, doing everything to keep the club going. And they're not interested in that. Alistair couldn't care less if Fulham fans were all 25,000 were replaced by tourists, because he knows he would get more money straight away. He doesn't. See,
that's
really
what bothers me. That's what really gets me, Mike. And I'm glad that I'm sorry to chime in here, but I think that's the crux of the issue I have, is that you have a CEO that basically is just looking at the bottom line, like you just mentioned. It's putting people in seats. It doesn't matter who they are, as long as it's getting done and he knows he can get it. And I think that is just terrible to build what I hope that they want to build. But again, I don't know what that is now. Is it really just about the money at this point? Is it about, like you said, filling the seats? The bottom line, Tony, I want to get your thoughts on all this.
Yeah, look, you've got to sort of strip it all back and sort of look at the foundations, Russ. And look, Shahid Khan is a billionaire, right? Money is no object to him, really, right?
Right.
When they came in and they bought Fulham Football Club, they bought it as a commodity, as a plaything, as something to have, as you know, just something to say that we've got that established now, and we've got a setup in London. It's a great location, and we can put money in and invest it. No one buys a football club to make money. No one. It's a known fact that football clubs pretty much run at a loss most seasons. But with the amount of money that's now flying around in the Premiership, there is so much money, so much that, you know, you've got to think that what the players are earning. When those players step out onto the pitch, you've got to remember what they're being paid.
I know.
And fans are there to watch them give their best and do their best and perform. Fulham are competing, realistically, for 3 competitions every season, right? The Premier League, which we know we're not even going to compete for at the moment with the squad that we've got, the FA Cup and the Carabao Cup. And when was the last time that we've had a good run on both of those? You know, got to the semi-finals last year against Liverpool, but other than that, you know, we've been nowhere close since, you know, 1975. So ultimately, you know, you're looking at, and you've got to think to yourself, right, what are the club trying to establish here? What do they want? And ultimately, they clearly, I was at the Watford game, Russ, right?
Yep.
And I know it's the FA Cup, but whatever. The atmosphere was absolutely shocking. One of the worst nights I've ever seen at Craven Cottage from a Fulham perspective. Watford outsung us. They had more. You know, it was embarrassing what happened there. Absolutely embarrassing. And that should not be happening to our football club.
No.
Our supporters should be able to rock up, pay a reasonable amount of money to go and watch a football club, encourage families to come, encourage youngsters to come in and watch the game. You know, we're living in times where people haven't got spare cash. You know, it's really tough out there for people. And you're asking a family of 4 to come along to a football match and pay over 150 quid, £200. It's just unrealistic.
Right. And Tony, you actually brought out this comparison before we went live. We were talking about what it would cost to go to San Siro. I found that interesting.
Absolute joke. I mean, if you look at it, 30 quid for a ticket to go and watch Milan at the weekend, right? If you get an EasyJet flight for 40 quid, yeah, it costs you less to go and fly to Italy to watch Milan than it does to go and watch Fulham against Manchester United on Sunday. And that just, the game's completely gone. And I don't see how they can't see it. Now, I know the supporters trust are looking at it, but we've been there before. How many times have we gone down? Mike's fully aware of it. You know, do they actually have a voice? What is the point of having this trust if they're not going to be listened to, if they're not going to be taken seriously, if McIntosh is just going to sit there and give lip service, but actually at the end of the day, it's the entitlement and the arrogance that these guys come in and think, do you know what? We don't care about you supporters that have been there since 1970 or 1960 or whatever it is.
Yep.
We just want to get the local tourists in to come and watch these games because they've got the money. Fulham Football Club will be dead on its feet. And as you say, if we get relegated back to the Championship, good luck filling the stadium then, because they will have massive problems.
Right. And Mike, I want to go back to you because you were very involved with the Fulham Supporters Trust. And I've seen the notes and I've seen all of the stuff with Alistair, and I've talked to some people too. I think what Tony is saying is pretty accurate. Arrogance, meaning that I've seen the notes, you know. I'm paraphrasing a little bit because I can't remember exactly what the notes had said, but you were in these meetings And it just seems, as Tony's saying, you were there, that it sounds like they care just about the bottom line and not about someone like yourself. And there's only so much the supporters trust can do. You know, I know people take shots at the supporters trust, but what can you do if the club is not willing to listen or care to do anything about it?
I mean, it's fair. So everyone who's on the trust, anyone who's on the trust board is putting their time and effort in, you know, to try and do the best. Okay, the vast majority are on there, and I know quite a few on the current one. But it's the creation of the other board last summer. Okay, yes. the advisory board, which is handpicked from applicants by Alistair. Right. And you can see in the last notes that his view on the trust is, to me now, they're just an irrelevance. He kept. Yeah. There's at least 3 times in the last notes that he says it will be referred back to his meetings with the advisory board. Okay, and that's just, you know, they're all. I did tweet, you know, they're all yes people. They're all complicit with this, and I had some comments come back at me, you know, privately about that. But the fact is, the trust have a voice. They do have a voice, and we've done a lot of, or I say we, I'm not in there no more, but we've done a lot of good work over the last 10, 15 years. Okay, there is a lot of stuff that's gone on in the background, certainly pre-COVID, shall we say, where changes have been made because of what they were involved in. Okay, but there is a dramatic change since then, and certainly since the stand got close to being finished, because the club now just seem obsessed with the stand. Okay, I likened it a couple of months ago to a non-league clubs who used to, Tony might recognise it, non-league clubs, when they build a nice big stand, it has the bar in, and that's where they're going to raise all their money from, and the other 3 sides of the ground get forgotten about. And that's literally what's happening at the Cottage. You know, they're just doing lip service to the 2 end stands. Yeah. You know, the poor old Johnny Haynes stand is difficult to fix and everything else, I know. But you can just tell that they just don't really care about that. You know, not only the trust, you know, but the other groups involved have all gone to the club and mentioned about the facilities in those 3 other stands. Right. And the club, well, we haven't got the money. You know, we're concentrating on this. What a load of rubbish! They're turning over 200 million quid, and they can't spend 50,000 pounds on giving something a paint job or fixing the toilets or doing something like that. So it is just,
it's crap.
The obsession with the Riverside stand could be. I mean, obviously, I don't want anything to go wrong, but it could be a real big mistake that they're just doing everything for that. And I think going back to Khan and the owners, and I think because they're coming from America, it's the NFL major event mentality. I asked you before the show, Russ, how many games does an NFL team play at home? And you said, you know, it's 8, 9, maybe with a couple of friendlies, so 10 or 11. So, but it's very much an event, isn't it? Because it's a shortened season.
It is. Yes.
You know,
every match, every game is an event.
Yeah, and that's what they're trying. They, you know, with the Premier League and everything else, that's what they try to do here now. Is the 19 home games are an event? You know, get all the flamethrowers out, make sure it's on TV, all that kind of stuff. And the clubs see themselves. You can see it in all their marketing as being the equivalent of, you know, part of the, we call it the season here, Russ, which is, you know, you go to Wimbledon, you go to Queens, you know, you do all this, and they want that Riverside sort of event thing. So they don't care if 8,000 people sat in that Riverside stand or even watching the game, as long as they bought the ticket and are spending money in the restaurant behind it, looking over the river. Okay, so atmosphere is going to suffer. Okay, they're just so obsessed with that. But it's going to make minimal difference. You've only got to look at the accounts of any football club. You know, Tony was quite right. You do not make money in a football club. Okay.
No.
And I think our gate revenue is somewhere about 5-6%. And by putting everyone's tickets up by 20% is not going to make a dent in anything.
No, and that's kind of where I'm going on this, Mike, because like you said, I do think that they are obsessed with the Riverside Stand. Do I see the potential with the Riverside Stand being a 365-day place where they can make money from? Yes, I absolutely see that. But the fact that they have done nothing to the other three stands is just wrong. The toilet thing I hear all the time. I just think that it's wrong. Listen, I've dealt with owners over here. John Henry, who owns Liverpool, refurbished Fenway Park, refurbished obviously Anfield, but he didn't just concentrate on one part of it. He concentrated on all of it. And that to me is what I don't get. Even like the Crafts over here, they are refurbishing all different parts of Gillette Stadium constantly because there are parts of it that need work. So the fact that they put all of their eggs in this basket of the Riverside Stand is just not right, man. It's just not right. It's not right that the other three stands suffer and the supporters who are in there do not get the type of place that they really deserve. Like you said, a paint job, the toilets. It's just wrong, and it really irritates me. That's partially why I wanted to do this show. But I want to focus now on the atmosphere part of this, the competitive advantage, Mike. I'll go to you first, and I want to get Tony because you've experienced this as well. Both of you have experienced this. You're talking, if we project forward to the Manchester United match, obviously the time of the match is not ideal, as we're all talking about, but the atmosphere is not going to be what it should be. And Marco's talked about this. The manager of the team wants Fulham supporters there to help with the atmosphere, to get behind the club. How are you going to do that when you have all these Manchester United supporters there, Mike? Like you said, they are more interested in putting on an event with the fire, with all of that. Oh, it looks great. I don't care about that. I care about the 3 points, Mike. I care about Fulham winning matches, and I care about all of you guys having a wonderful time when you're there. So that's what really gets me, Mike. How about the competitive advantage? Do they even care about that, Mike?
I don't think the bean counters care. Obviously, Marco, he mentioned something last week
yeah, he
about
did.
atmosphere and that kind of stuff. We have had issues for years. Well, first of all, we've never been amazingly noisy, but when the Cottage is rocking under the lights, I don't believe there's a better stadium in the world, quite frankly. You know, it is special by the river under the lights, absolutely, no doubt. But we have had an issue for an awful long time with regards away fans, not tourists, away fans, okay, in home ends, in home sections, okay? And the club will, you know, give lip service to kicking maybe one out or telling, you know, sit down, be quiet, you know. But basically, we're one of the easiest clubs to get a membership, buy a ticket once in the last decade or so, and then suddenly I'm a Fulham fan and I can get a ticket. Sometimes before people with like 1,400 loyalty points and that kind of stuff. And the ticket, then the replies they give are just, you know, we look at the postcodes and all. No, you're not. You're just taking the money, you know. And if they get caught, they get caught. But your stewards who are on minimum wage, they're not going to go out their way to cause any ruckus and try and get these people chucked out. You see it every day. I'm not sure where you sit, Tony, in the Hammersmith end, but you could almost. One of the games I was at recently, I looked straight up at the Riverside stand, and you could almost count the away fans who were in that first block just by their demeanour and that kind of stuff. And it's just so easy, so easy. You know, they think, oh well, they're going to walk in wearing the away kit. If they're not, but you can just tell. You know, and but that worsens the atmosphere when they're there, because you get distracted. Certain fans get distracted, and they're more interested in getting that person over there out, or getting the stewards. It's, when really you should be concentrating on what's happening on the pitch. But that goes down to the way the clubs sell the tickets, and not being loyal to the season ticket holders and proper membership, and those with a long history of buying tickets. You're always going to need new fans, okay?
Right.
We mentioned earlier on children. If I can just say, so under 18s, okay, in 2018, a ticket in the Hammersmith End was 25 quid. All right.
Yep.
It is £41 for the same seat this coming Sunday for an under 18-year-old. It's horrendous.
That's crazy, Mike. It's crazy that it's gone up that much, honestly. And again, Tony, I want to get your thoughts on what Mike just shared. And also, just in general, when you're there, the atmosphere, the competitive advantage that you have when you have the Fulham supporters all, like you said, in unison. And then the way things are happening right now, you've got away fans there that are with you.
Yeah, look, it's so broken at the moment. I think the atmosphere at the club is the worst it's been in many, many, many years. If you want to break down the demographic of how the stadium is, you've got H4, H5, H6 in the Hammersmith End, where most of the noise comes from, and that's the back end of the supporters. At the top end that rustle up the noise and try and get the crowd going. You very rarely hear anything from the Johnny Haynes stand. Very, very rarely. You'll get a few claps and a few things, but they won't sing necessarily. Then you got the Putney end that, again, nothing comes out of them because they're right next to the away supporters. The Riverside is dead, like literally, as Mike says. You look up into the upper tier, and it's actually embarrassing what's going on there. It's absolutely embarrassing. Wouldn't you rather lower the prices and get that full than keep it, with the ridiculous prices and half empty? It's absolutely crazy. So there's that. There's been the atmosphere. There's been one great atmosphere this season at home against Brentford. That atmosphere that night was unbelievable. And the Chelsea away game, that was also the limbs after, we scored that goal in the last minute. But even then, the ticketing for that game was an absolute shambles. It was shambolic what they did for that game for supporters, with loyal bonus point. And then, you can't get a ticket because it was just farcical. So I think that there's a bigger issue here, Russell. And I think that Alistair McIntosh and the Khans are completely and utterly disjointed from, detached from the supporters and the reality of where genuine, real supporters are and where Fulham Football Club is. And there is a massive disparity, between the two. Massive. As I say, it's different if we were a top 4 club and we're punching for Champions League and we're doing it week in and week out. But we're not. We're not even close. Not even close. So I think that ultimately, with the trust, with people that care for the club, with supporters, real supporters, there is going to come a point where they will need to make a stand in order to make change, in order for big change to happen, because it will get away from us. And then we're going to be left with a situation like Mike touched on, where the ground is just going to be full with just people coming to watch a football game because they're in the area or they're on holiday. And that's not what Fulham Football Club is about.
Okay. And that goes to, and I was actually on a Zoom call about a year ago talking with the Fulham Supporters Trust a little bit about what can be done next. And that's the big question. That's kind of how I want to end this. So coming up next, what can be done to change things for the Fulham supporters? Okay, Mike.
Are you asking me?
Yep. I'm going to you first. So what can possibly be done, Mike? Because I've seen what has been tried. That the yellow card was tried.
Look, there's no doubt that Fulham fans we're quite passive in that sense. Okay, in all my time, when it comes to calling for managers to get out, we get quite passionate. But the whole Fulham Park Rangers stuff in '87 and those kind of things, is the one time in all the years I've been going where really rally together. I'd also maybe go back. It's slightly different, but as a whole unit, the club and the fans together, the Adams promotion season was the biggest unity we've had as well, you know. So we're quite passive. We're not like a lot of clubs, you know. I suppose someone will have done something about it, but you know, we've only had 2 owners in what is it now, 30 years almost.
That's right.
So that's
right.
You know, that's quite stable for a club. So we, you know, we've not had the dangers of going out of business and those kind of things. But for us to, you know, I know Fulham has tried something. I know the Trust have tried something.
Yeah.
I don't expect the FA people to try anything. But it may come to a point where, you know, there has to be some kind of in-match protest as well. It's very difficult. I don't think boycotting works, you know, because you're not going to do that. You're not going to get that. People want to watch the game, see the game.
I know.
But probably what needs to be done is at some stage in a game, even at half time, you know, would be a start. A very loud, prominent protest of some kind. But if the club got wind of something was going to happen, then, you know, certain people wouldn't get in the ground, that kind of thing. And but you know, you can do it by lobbying the club continually. But you don't want relegation, but you also know when that comes along, they come back cap in hand saying, you know, we're going to freeze prices, we're going to keep you all happy, and, you know, stay with us until we go back up again next time. And then they're bringing more tourists on that time. So it is difficult. I don't know the answer, but we've just got to keep banging away at it. But I think it's a bigger issue than just one club. I have to say that. And it really needs a united front from everyone, to be honest.
Mike, you mentioned that before we went live, that what happens with Fulham is basically what is happening around the Premier League. It's not one club. They actually basically copy each other. They're like, well, this is what's working for you. We'll do it too. So, like, I'm glad that you talked about it. It's not just Fulham that are dealing with this, but obviously we're going to focus on Fulham. Tony, I don't know what can be done here, but I just wanted to throw it out there. That's why I wanted to do a show. I wanted to voice my thoughts, but I really wanted to get you guys involved because doing nothing doesn't feel right by me. They're just basically accepting it. I wanted to at least do a show to talk about this and get it out in the open. And I know others have done this. It's nothing new to talk about, but what can be done? You know, it's funny. Like I said, I went to this Zoom call talking about suggestions, and I said, listen, the only thing, and this would not work with Fulham, so I'm going to say it. I just said that the only thing that has ever worked here in America is basically people not going to the games. But that's not going to happen at Craven Cottage. People are going to want to go. That's not going to work.
Well, no, Russ, can I just say, well, actually, we are seeing it slightly, aren't we? Because that's how the conversation starts.
Yeah.
It's Sunday, tickets go on sale, general sale, because people can't go. So it won't be the fact that fans don't want to go. It will be because they can't. And it'll be the owners of these clubs and the Premier League who will cause that. Because attendances will go down because they're just push things too far.
Right. Right, Mike. And I actually think that they're heading in that direction. So maybe that's really the only hope that we have is that they're pushing the levels too high, Tony. But I want to get your thoughts on this.
Yeah, look, I don't think internally, from a supporter's perspective, I don't think there is much that we can do. We don't hold the clout. Mike's right. You know, boycotting doesn't work.
No, it doesn't.
It won't work because, as he says, people want to watch the game, and you won't get enough. You know, there's no way you will get 20,000 people boycotting the game. It just won't happen.
Right. That's the only way, but it won't happen.
In my opinion, the only way it's going to change, and you know they're not worth their weight in gold anyway, is that the FA have to step in at some point and make it a blanket across the whole of the Premier League with every football club, and they have to cap it. And that's the only way, it's going to happen, because ultimately, the owners, look, the bottom line is, look, I'm sure Tony Khan and Shahid Khan, I'm sure they do care about the club in terms of, it's an investment for them. They want it to do well. They don't want to throw their money away. But at the end of the day, Shahid Khan makes more interest every day than he does on 19 flipping Premier League, games and ticket sales every season. Let's be honest. So it's not about the money, Russ. And ultimately, they are the ones that hold the power. Shahid Khan could wake up tomorrow and go, you know what? I've looked at it. With the climate that we're in and whatever we're doing, under 18s are just going to pay £10 every game, £10. Every under 18 that wants to come to a home game is going to cost you £10. That's affordable. Families can then bring their kids to football matches. Yeah, they can do it.
They can absolutely do that, Tony. They can,
but in my opinion, the only way it's going to ever change is if the FA step in with all these companies that are providing money like Sky, Amazon, whatever, and they say, do you know what? It needs to be capped now, because there is so much money going around. How can you justify paying more than Arsenal? How can we be paying more for tickets than Arsenal? How?
It doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense, Tony. And I think that's also part of the problem, is that I don't think that they understand, or they're even looking at the pricing for the other clubs, but they feel that they can get it, and they're going to continue to do it. Guys, I want to wrap this up with final thoughts, because, again, I wanted to talk about what can be done. Obviously, there's very little that can be done. It's just very frustrating. And I want to do a show to voice our frustration with this. Mike, anything you want to share to end the show?
I'll just, Tony's right. It has to come from the authorities. So what is the one really good thing that they have in place? And that's the £30 cap for away tickets.
Right.
Okay. So they have shown that they can cap the price. Okay. And people want to go to away game. There's not many Premier League games where that I see where the away fans haven't sold their allocation. Now, I'm a bit confused about the Newcastle away one for Fulham, where we seem to have not taken the full allocation, which seems ludicrous, But look at it from the club point of view, they don't make any money from it, so they don't care. They don't care. So they can. Capping is the way to go. So that comes from the government, the regulator, if that ever comes through, the FA. Let's be honest, it's a product, is the way they see it, the FA and the Premier League. So if they want their product, 380 games a year, I think it is, of which 200 odd are on the TV. And I know, living in Ireland, you can see every game on any time.
Right.
If they want products where there's people in every seat, a good atmosphere, they have to reduce prices.
Yeah, I agree.
And that is as simple as that. Or the bubble will burst. I know we keep saying that every 5 years or so, but it will at some stage, because the cost of living, we can all see what's happening in the world. They just cannot keep doubling the prices, as they're doing every 10 years almost.
Now, Mike, I agree with you, and I agree with what Tony said. I think that's the only way that that change does come about. It's going to have to come from the government. It's going to have to come from a cap of some kind. And I agree with you. I think that would be the solution to all this. But that's the only way that the ticket pricing is going to change, is that if they're forced to make a change. And that, to me, I agree with you. I think that's the only solution. But will that ever happen, Mike?
No, because it's free market. No, I'm just being honest. That's what we want, but they're not going to do it.
Yeah.
Because it's that. Isn't it? So.
Okay, no worries. Tony, final thoughts before we wrap this up?
No, I think Mike hit the nail on the head, and ultimately, we can talk about it until we're blue in the face. Ultimately, The supporters don't matter anymore, Russ. They just
Yeah.
don't matter anymore. Whilst they can put bums on seats and people are willing to pay the tickets, they'll keep doing it. And ultimately, as I said, it will affect us. You know, when I'm unable to go because of, you know, I'm an old man in a wheelchair and I can't get there anymore. You know, my son's generation, you know, they won't bother. They can just watch it on telly. It's easy for them. And if they're just happy filling the stadium with whoever wants tickets, great. But, you know, as I said, you know, Mike's right. The atmosphere that, you know, during the Roy Hodgson year, when we went on that European run, you know, there was nothing like it. Every home game was full. The atmosphere was unreal. The Mickey Adams, you know, promotion season, that was unbelievable. Got home and away, used to go. It was a real tight knit. You know, you had a proper relationship with the players, the manager, everybody. You know, it was how football should be. We're a million miles away from that now. Football is a commodity now, and it's an entertainment business, and that's what people are paying for.
Okay, can I just finish, Russ, very quickly?
Absolutely, Mike. Absolutely. Go ahead.
And we all know the only thing that's keeping things together at the club is Marco Silva. And as soon as he leaves, we are in it.
100% right.
Mike, you know? 100%. Mike.
On that light note, Russ, I really have enjoyed it. And Tony, it's been a good, it's a passionate subject, and fans care a hell of a lot about it. And we care more about the club long term than the owners and the current CEO, because we're here for decades and they're here, you know, and gone.
Right, Mike, and that's why I really wanted to do this. And I'm just frustrated by what I'm saying. Listen, I'm not going to be there, and I want to be there, but I won't be able to come over. But I know so many people that go, like you guys, and it just irritates me because I think that you're being taken advantage of. That's just my opinion. But it's a bigger problem, as you said. It's not just a Fulham problem. It's really a problem with football in general. So I don't want to blame this all on Alistair McIntosh and the Cons, because it's a bigger issue than just them. It's all football owners, if you really want to get down to it, in the Premier League. It's the way it's run, and they don't care. It's ultimately it's about money, and that to me is sad, because for me it has nothing to do with money. It has to do with Fulham Football Club, and I want to see my friends be able to go to a match that they want to go to and not have to worry how much it's going to cost them, and that really saddens me. Anyways, great show, fantastic show. I do want to just thank Mike. It's been a long time. Hopefully Mike can join us again. Tony,
cheers,
thank you.
I really enjoyed doing the show with you, and I just wanted to get this out, but I do want to wrap this up. For Tony Gold and Mike Gregg, I'm Russ Goldman. Thank you as always for watching and listening to Cottage Talk.